Ashlee Shipley with Fairway Home Mortgage, and I wanted to take some time today to talk through how you can prepare to buy a home. I know buying a home can seem daunting and overwhelming, but this is going to go over the nitty-gritty of what you need to do to get ready. Reach out to me if you have any extra questions that aren't addressed in this video. I'm here and happy to help. So let's talk about the benefits of buying a home. First and foremost, pride of ownership. How cool would it be that if your heart says that your home needs to be neon yellow on the inside, you can do that. You can make this home exactly yours. The big one, and my favorite, is the growth in equity. Equity is the difference of what you owe on your home and what it's worth in the market. The bigger the spread is between that, the more equity you have. And this is real money that can be tapped into for debt payoff, for starting a business, for college, you name it. This is where financial freedom is created through real estate. Predictable costs. So average rent in Utah goes up anywhere from 3 to 7% every year. A mortgage? Nah, we don't play that game. Most terms are anywhere from 15 to 30 years fixed, which means the principal and interest portion will not change. And you'll just see some variations in homeowners insurance and property taxes as they continue year over year. But you've locked in a predictable cost. And keep in mind, most continue to make more as they progress through life. So if you've locked in a payment here, 5 years down the road, you're likely making more. This hasn't moved. Your standard of living is opening you up to more opportunities to do other things with that money. You're not in the rat race of rent where it's increasing year over year. Okay, dependent on how you buy, there could be potential tax write-offs. I am not a CPA. I cannot speak to taxes. But as a homeowner of multiple properties across multiple states, I can tell you that they have drastically improved my taxes year over year. There are many ways to tap into that. And you need to speak to your own specific CPA, but this is something that gets overlooked and can be a massive help for someone who might be a high W-2 income earner that doesn't have a lot of other write-offs outside of their job. Last but not least, potential to leverage that equity that we talked about into future properties. What if you started with what you could afford, lived there till the equity grew, hold that equity, and then went into a bigger home? Do it again, bigger home. If you do that 4 times, which we will go over more in this video, it's called house hacking, but if you do that 4 times, there is a high likelihood that 2 adults can retire with over $7 million in assets. That is not a made-up number. The data is here. We'll go over it. But the ability to leverage the equity you are creating into future investments and opportunities is incredible. I often am helping my clients do this. I am 14, 15 years ahead of doing this. I've made mistakes. I've learned from them. And there are things that I love helping people do. But these are definitely benefits that you want to think about and why a home might be a good purchase for you. Another reason you may want to buy, there is a staggering difference in net worth between homeowners and renters. In 2022, the Aspen Institute highlighted that discrepancy. The average net worth of a homeowner is $400,000. For a renter, $10,400. This is that equity that I'm going to keep harping on, because until you've experienced it and actually witnessed you purchase something and it goes up in value substantially, equity is kind of an elusive unicorn. But this is what I mean, where real estate wealth is created through equity. Look at that difference, $400,000 compared to $10,400, all because you bought a house. So if it's in the cards for you, that's something you could look forward to. This is going to specifically address Utah. I'm located in Utah, born and raised. I do live in multiple states and have slowly but surely turned those states into locations that I can speak intelligently on, not just the mortgage portion, but the state itself. But this, I want to talk Utah, home state. We are expected to grow in population from 3.3 million to 5.5 million people by 2060. That's 66% more people. If you live in Utah, I want you to like picture Utah. Where? Where do we put these humans? And when they say Utah is a bubble, Utah is a bubble for more than one reason. So when you think Utah, you think Salt Lake, Davis, Utah County. You're not thinking of the rest of the state per se. Maybe some St. George, Park City, things like that. But Erda, no. So we're landlocked between mountain ranges. We don't have the urban sprawl. Think Texas. Texas is massive. So we have a lot of people in a small space, coupled with the fact that we have larger family sizes and tight-knit communities. People like to stay close to home. So all of this kind of creates the perfect storm where we have a really big housing shortage of 37,000 houses. So this is not doom and gloom. We're not on TikTok. We're not reading the headlines of the sky is falling. What that should tell you is that if you can find a way to purchase a home in Utah, it's a good investment. It's something solid. It's something that's not expected to completely crash out because we have such a unique market and our homes go up in value really well. It's not necessarily a bad thing. It's something that you should just know. So let's talk about if you specifically are ready to buy a home. First thing you want to think about, can you be in this property or this location for 3 years? If you're about to fly the coop and join a college program in another state, maybe not the best idea. I want you to think of buying a home as a long-term solution. This is a 3 to 5 year purchase. Now, of course, the loan is typically for 30 years, but on average, most stay in their home approximately about 8 years. For you, minimally, I want you to think 3 to 5. Reason being, I want the amount of equity growth on your property to be enough that when you go to buy again, you have a good chunk of change to tap into to put into the next home. So we want you to have stable, predictable location and stable and predictable income. If you're a new business owner, your runway is going to be a little bit longer because you are going to have to show that your business produces income enough to support a payment 30 years down into the future. But if you signed a brand new offer letter right out of college, W-2 income, going to start within the next 60 days, I can use that day one to qualify you on a home. So what you need to be hearing from this is step one, we're going to be brave and say, I would like to own a house. Step two, we're going to put someone in your back pocket who is going to strategize with you, listen to your goals, dreams, and aspirations, and then create a plan around that. And back to ready to buy a home. Credit. Credit holds a lot of people back, and I don't want it to. A 500 credit score can buy a home. There are programs that don't have a credit score requirement. If you're going to look at your credit, there's a good way to do it as well. But if you have a 620 or higher, you're probably there. 620 is when down payment assistance, grant programs, things like that all start entering as opportunities for help on down payment. Which brings me to, did you hear me say at any point in time you need to have XYZ amount of money saved? No. State of Utah specifically, best grant and down payment programs out there. They are meant to help people afford their home and get into their home with as little out of pocket as possible. You will have additional costs. You will likely have inspections and earnest money, which we will cover in detail if you and I have a discussion later. But it's not 20%. It's maybe 1%, $2,500. Don't let the money issue stop you from creating your strategy. Get the strategy and know the exact amount of money you need to plan for, and then go from there. I see this happening a lot in reverse, and the sooner you pull someone in who does this day in and day out, the better you'll be. So I'm going to simplify the home buying process into 5 steps. Piece of cake. But this is how it chunks out along with a timeline attached. So first and foremost, you need a pre-approval. This means someone has run credit, ideally a soft pull so we don't take the ding on your score. They've reviewed your assets. your income, strategized with you to specifically dial in the location that you're going to be buying, the loan program you're going to be using, the money that you will need out of pocket. And that timeline kind of depends on you. So I've seen people have a conversation with me, apply, send all of their documentation, and have a full pre-approval in the same day. I've had others where it takes a week or so. It really depends on the person, but give yourself, I would say, maybe 2-3 days for just that portion. That does not mean the home buying portion. For that, 3-month timeline. Meaning if you got a lease ending in 3 months, you need to be talking about home buying over here. And if it happens earlier, great. If you're brave enough to go even further, that's better, but 3 months minimum. And so you start with your pre-approval, you get your numbers dialed in. Then you hire a real estate agent. It is, in my opinion, the best route. To have someone who does this day in and day out, who is able to negotiate on your behalf, who knows the market, who knows how to help you get the absolute best deal on your home, that's a big deal. Also, 9 times out of 10, the buyer does not pay the real estate agent. Most of the time, that's coming from the seller, and it's something that's negotiated. So I would hire a real estate agent and go shop for a home. Again, timeline kind of depends on you. It could be this first day you go look at homes because you know exactly what you're looking for. It could take 3 years. Doesn't matter. It's your timeline. When the house happens, you want to be ready. That's why we do numbers first. Then we shop. Then you're going to do the offer submission tango, which is where your real estate agent talks to the listing agent and they're going to negotiate and submit an offer on your behalf. This is a little bit of back and forth. Give yourself 2 or 3 days here. But ideally, at the end of this, you want the seller to accept your offer, which means you now get the ball in your court, and the home's going to be yours in about 30 days. Woo! You'll initially start with inspections. I, as a lender, will not see your inspections. They are to make sure you are not buying a lemon. And these inspections can go from basic all the way into the nitty-gritty. Listen to me when I tell you there are multiples, and it will depend on the house, and your real estate agent will be a massive help here because you'll want your basic, but then you may also want to test for a radon, tasteless, odorless gas that gives you cancer. Meth, if you don't test for meth and the home has it, when you go to sell in the future, it could come back positive. It doesn't go away. It's really sticky. And meth mitigation, thousands of dollars, heartache, headache, you name it. You can have the sewer scopes so that you know that your pipes are clear because you are responsible for the line from the house to the street. So you want that to be solid. And if it's not, you want to address it with the seller before the home becomes yours. All of those items can range anywhere from $500-$600 to $1,500, home dependent and location dependent. You'll rely on myself and your real estate agent to help guide you through that. Then I, as the lender, will order the appraisal. I will order title work. There's a lot of things. It takes an average of 16 people to do one mortgage. That is my circus. Those are my monkeys, and I love it. But all of that takes some time. So it's about a 30-day window where we want pretty much everything solidified within the first 20 days to know that the home is worth what you are paying for it. No big red ticket items that we need to address. The loan is going to work for you. We want to address all of that and make sure that's all tied with a bow. When all of that's done, you'll go to the title company, you'll sign some documentation, do your finger stretches first. That title company is going to send it over to the county and they're going to do something called recording. The home's not yours until it's recorded. Don't give your social out. No RC Willie or IKEA shopping. Hold. Sign on the dotted line. When it records, home is yours. You get the keys. See, it's a piece of cake. 5 steps. We can do it daily. But I wanted that to be chunked down so you could specifically watch this portion and know what's kind of coming and how to plan timelines and things like that into it. What to consider when you're buying a house. Real estate agent's very helpful here. But you've probably heard this. Location, location, location. Your house cannot be picked up and moved. So while somewhere an hour and a half away from your ideal spot may cost less. Your drive time, commutes, additional gas, and just general happiness is likely going to decrease, and that needs to be thought about. I would, in a heartbeat, take a home that needs some cosmetic updates in the area that I'd rather be over the shiny, pretty new thing that's far out. And knowing where you want to be is huge as well. So where do the kids need to go to school? Is there daycare? Is it close to the programs that you do for yourself, your exercise and your favorite gyms and friends, family, your tribe? All of that goes into the location. Next, maintenance costs. Did you notice how I said cosmetic updates? I don't personally love buying homes that need massive repairs like foundation issues. They're on their last leg on a roof unless the roof is negotiated in. So you want to look at maintenance as well and factor that into the home ownership. I think a lot of lenders skip over this. It's down payments, inspections, payment per month, done. And I'm like, well, eventually your water heater is going to go out, and eventually you're going to need to clean out the ducts in your home if you're in a high dust area. Eventually that roof is going to need to be replaced, and you will have to update it. So those big ticket items need to be well known, and then you make the call if you're up for that or not, but also like keep that in mind. Another thing to remember is your potential for future use. So me, myself, and I buy homes to keep. My kids, grandkids have them. I'm a buy and hold kind of gal. There's a million strategies to real estate. We can get into that in Homebuying 102. But if you would like to hopefully keep this home and convert it into a rental, you better make sure it can. So city restrictions, HOA restrictions, that stuff needs to be looked at. And I do not want you to buy a home, again, because it's shiny and new, if it's not going to serve its purpose in the long term. It's going to be the place where you lay your head down at night that keeps you safe, that you're going to make yours. But what's your 3 and 5 year plan with it? What's your 10-year plan? Are you dying in this house? Most often not, especially if this is your first go round. So think about that. And alongside that is your appreciation. So how much is this house going to grow? How much value can be added to it? How much anticipated worth are you going to create by owning it for the 3 to 5 years we discussed? Freshly remodeled, beautiful homes are going to appreciate a little bit slower, but they may have less maintenance costs. So there's like a trade-off there based on your bravery level and what you're comfortable with. And this is why you strategize with someone. And a mortgage is so much more than a mortgage. Possible tax benefits. Think through how this home is going to impact the bottom line to the IRS. None of us like paying taxes. And tax breaks and things like that that help that, massive. The house can be a big one. So just going to throw a story in super quick. When I pre-approve someone, let's say they're looking at a townhome, oftentimes also look at a home with a mother-in-law apartment that can be rented out. That is a bigger purchase price, which is scary. Ooh, but the out-of-pocket cost to my client is almost 100% of the time less because the rent offsets enough mortgage that their portion decreases. Bigger thing, that basement is now a write-off, depending on how you do taxes. So again, talk to your CPA, but think through this when you're considering where to buy, what you're buying, and the long-term goals that you have. We briefly touched on costs to buy a home, but I want to dive into that just like a tiny bit more. So yes, you have a down payment. Most loans will require 0 to 5% down to qualify. There are so many strategies, so many down payment assistance like that. That's just down payment. On top of that, you have inspections, which we talked about. You've got prepaid costs and you've got closing costs. So you've got this bucket of 4 different items and everyone focuses on down payment. The other 3 are a big deal too. At the time of this recording, which is early 2026, it is a buyer's market. Let's see how this ages. And that means that anything that is not down payment can usually be paid for by the seller through something called seller concessions, seller credits. And that relates to, let's talk prepaid costs. So we're going to set up an escrow account to pay property taxes and homeowners insurance for you as they're due once a year. that takes some money up front to get those said property taxes set up, additional cost. Plan on 0.5% of your purchase price, probably, depending on the time of year. Closing costs themselves, state of Utah is actually pretty decent. Plan on 1% of your purchase price going to third party. Remember that circus and those monkeys of 16 people to do a loan? They don't work for free. But 1% of your purchase price towards closing costs is a safe bet to put aside. Now, if this flips and we're in a seller's market, this is going to be money on top of the down payment that you will need to bring. This is why you just need to know where you stand at the time that you're looking and plan accordingly. So right now, I would say early 2026, we're using down payment assistance or grant programs. Seller is oftentimes covering all prepaid costs and all closing costs. It is so common right now that my buyers are coming into closing with less than $2,000 out of pocket. Depends on a lot of other things, but at least you know that it was possible. And the lower interest rates come down, the more that's going to flip. So we'll see how this goes. But this is extra costs that I want to have at least on your radar to know that they're not going to be a surprise when you talk to a lender. I'm going to have you look at me. Rate isn't everything. It is a big thing, and most people focus on this because it's a number. So you can compare a 5 versus a 6%. And the 5's better, right? No. This is something that I hope reaches you and you get to this far in the class so that you can hear this part. Time in the market will always beat timing the market. You've probably heard that applied to stock. It applies to real estate. What that means, you've got to be able to afford the payment. The payment leads the conversation. We don't want you house poor. But after that, you buy and you hold. And even when the market goes blah, 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 all over the planet, if you hold through that, chances are high that on the other side, your home will be worth more than you bought it for and more than you owe, and you will have a good chunk of money. If you're wondering how people are buying $1 million homes in this market, most of them, I'm helping them with their loans. They have hundreds of thousands of dollars of equity from a property that they bought in 2020, 2021. You can do the same. This is cyclical. Homes do this a lot. So finding your brave and getting in when you can afford it in the area you want, and then holding, that's the strategy of winning, not necessarily rate. Rate is a tool to make the payment affordable. It is not the leader of the show. Your payment is. Something else to consider when we're having this rate discussion is how this home is a hedge against inflation. So if this is rising and costs are rising and your home stays the same, you are hedging against what inflation is doing around you. You're also looking at that appreciation factor, that growth in equity. And historically, looking back over the last 40 years nationwide, it's gone up 4%, which means if a home is worth $400,000 this year, it's worth 4% more at the same time the following year. And that's looking back statistically and really far back historically. And there have been little moments in time when those numbers have gone way bigger. And we all know about 2008 when the market kind of exploded. So it's definitely an up-down theme, but over the long term, 4%, insane. That's amazing. What pool leverage that you can buy something for anywhere from 0 to 5% out of pocket and have that whole asset, that whole $400,000 growing at 4% year over year. This is why I love real estate. Last thing to keep in mind, I don't know if you caught it, but in the beginning I said most mortgages don't make it past 8 years, even though they're written for 30. Reason being, people sell. If the market is cyclical and rates are adjusting all the time, you lock and you close here with a payment that you can afford. I think I'm going to say that at least 10,000 times to make sure it's taken home. If rates get better, you can redo the loan. If rates get worse, who cares? You're locked here. So this is why the rate is part of the discussion, but don't get hung up on this. This is just a small part of the overall picture. Also, I'll just add this because we've talked about the timing of this video and that it's a buyer's market. Watch what happens when rates come down. I have a laundry list of people who've been priced out of the market. Interest rates are too high to make their payment affordable. We're working on other solutions, saving money, other down payment programs, watching them like a hawk and being a good advocate for my people. If rates get down to 5, all but a handful of them will enter the market again. It could be insane. Being in front of that rate drop and owning prior to could be the best move you ever make. You'll get the opportunity to sleep on your decision. My buyers in 2020 and 21, they didn't have that luxury. Homes were gone, sight unseen, 5 minutes, multiple offers. Parents pulled out their entire retirement fund to buy their homes cash. It was wild. You didn't hear it here, but you did. I hope rates don't get down that low again. It kind of broke everything. It's taking years to come back. But they can come down. We can come down to a more even keel, like a solid 5. I'd be so happy there. What's going to happen though? All the people from FOMO land and all the people who are brave and looking right now, their affordability jumps through the roof. They're going to be ready. They'll be the first to get the best deals. When the rest of the universe finds out rates are down, I kind of see a bloodbath on our hands. I see it being extremely competitive seller's market. So another thing to keep in mind is chasing the rates could cost you much more. It could cost you the whole dang house in the long term. So remember that. While we're talking about rates and how we're going to strategize this, I really want to touch on, I don't love putting 20% down when you're buying a primary residence. Not at all. Guidelines changed in 2021, where the more you put down and the higher your credit score, the higher your interest rate is. I did not say that wrong. What is happening is that lower credit, lower down payments buyers loans are being subsidized by the most well qualified in the market. Is it fair? No, I can't change guidelines. I'm one lender in Utah. I would love to, but knowing it and knowing how to get around it, this is where we can shine. So what you'll see, let's say 2 people have a 740 credit score. First time home buyers, one's going to do 20% down, one's going to do 5% down. We're both going to go for a home price in the median, let's call it $525,000. 5% down is going to be $26,245. The interest rate is likely going to price 0.25% lower. That's insane. Per month because of the lower down payment. Now, your principal and interest, this is at 6.750, 7.226 APR, 3781.27. Flip to the 20% down. They're going to put $104,980 down on their home that's priced at $524,900. Their interest rate is 6.99. APR 7.473. Their total payment is $3,150.92. Okay, so let's compare the two. The person who did 20% down, their payment will be $630.35 less per month. Winning? No. That person brought an extra $78,735 to closing to save that $630. It will take 125 months, 11 years for the person who did 20% down to break even. Both have an incredible return on investment. After 5 years, the person who did 5% down will likely see a return on investment around 433%. That's at that 4% we talked about. The person who did 20%, 108% ROI. Both of those are triple digits. One of them has a lot more money in their bank account to go invest in other things. It's called a have your cake and eat it too moment. If you have 20%, put it in a high yield savings account, and that grows at an additional 4% at the time of this recording. So you have your home growing, you have other assets growing, put it in stocks, go buy another home, buy 3, whatever it may be. More down payment can come in very, very handy when we're talking about affordability of the month over month. If you simply cannot afford $3,780, but you can afford $3,150, and this house is the house, cool, we'll do 20% down, we'll make it work. This specific conversation is to address the leverage that you have by doing less. Side note too, think of how much longer it would take someone to save for that 20% down. The person who did 5 If they bought here, that's been growing 4% year over year. You fast forward that 5 years down, the value's increased by $115,000. There's a price to waiting as well. So payment, again, leads the show. What you have available to you and timeline, that's way more important. But really think about, is 20% down worth it for you? Because likely it's not. It's just not. There's better leverage with less down payment. House hacking. House hacking is my jam. House hacking is the hill that I will die on. This is how I think normal humans get themselves to a comfortable retirement. It involves being uncomfortable and finding your brave and doing things extremely strategically, but I shouldn't say always, but it will usually work out for the best. So an average adult needs $3 million to retire. I don't think I'll have Social Security. So what are my kids going to do? The world's crazy. There's a lot of turmoil. I understand that. You got to do what's best for you, but you do what you can at the time that you can. Let me run this down. So let's say you're ready to go buy a home. It's just you. You went to school or you got some sales, whatever it may be. You can afford a mortgage payment. It's time. If you start in something that's, let's say, $300,000 with 3% down, we're going to talk down payment. So $9,000 out of pocket, whether that's savings, retirement, cash under the bed, whatever it may be. You're going to live there at least a year. There needs to be a year between primary purchased homes. So you can't just buy a new home every 3 months, 6 months. But there also doesn't need to be a timeline. You can wait until you're comfortable and ready to go into house number 2 with the standard progression of life. Up to you. This is your life. You're walking it. So we buy a home for $300,000 with 3% down. We live in it until rent covers the mortgage. Might be a year, might be 3, might be 5. That whole time you can afford the payment and you're stashing away savings, because part of being able to afford it is not just making the payment, but still having savings goals and things like that. Fast forward, let's say it's year 2, rent covers the mortgage. Oh my gosh, let's go move. I can look at your first property, get an estimate of rent or a lease, and use 75% of the estimated rent as income to offset the payment. Now you're not qualifying for your existing payment and a new payment. You're only qualifying for payment number 2. Payment number 2, let's get that townhome with a garage. We live in Utah, there's snow. Let's say that's $450,000. And this one, you make some good money now. So you're going to put 5% down, $22,500. Number 1 payment is covered by rent. You can afford payment number 2. Move on. Now go to year 3, or whenever it makes sense. Year 3, you're hitched. You found your special someone, and you want a house. You don't want to share walls anymore. You're done with that part of life. You want a garden. So you go buy something for $600,000. Again, 5% down, $30,000. Ideally with a mother-in-law would be awesome right here. This is where that would fit in. But single family home, and you have house number 1 on taxes, great. There's income. Bada bing, bada boom. House number 2, we're going to get a lease. 75% of estimated rent is going to go to offset that payment. Great. You're only qualifying for house 3, but you have additional income from house 1 now. Good choice. Last time, we're going to buy the big kahuna. This is the one where we got to put it in the right school zone and the neighborhood that you want to be in. And we're going to go big. We're going to go up to $750,000. 5% down, $37,500. House 1 and 2 will be on tax returns at this point. House 3 will have a lease to offset, and for me to tap into 75% of the rent, offset the payment. So you're only qualifying for house 4, but with the additional rent of house 1 and 2 counting towards your income. That's it. 4 homes. At the time that you sign on the dotted line on house 4 for $750,000, you'll have invested out of pocket $99,000 in down payment plus whatever closing costs were not covered. At 4% appreciation, at the time of signing on your 4th home, your whole entire house portfolio will be worth just under $2,200,000. Fast forward 30 years, when you're aching and cracking and ready to retire, same appreciation of 4%. Those homes are now worth $7.1 million. You can tap into those homes, put a reverse mortgage on it, and live mortgage free. Do a cash out refinance. Buy more. I don't know. Live off just the rent and having no housing payment. There's so much strategy here, and it took bravery up front, getting into the housing market as soon as you can, and then holding those homes. Of course, there were other costs to keeping them happy, repairs and management and things like that. But I'm simplifying to show you that 4 homes, not 600, not 3,000, get off your TikTok, but that's enough to retire 2 people. It's not completely unheard of. You just gotta know that it exists. How to ensure that you have a really good home buying experience. For the love of all that is holy, get pre-approved and talk to a lender that you trust and that is giving you detailed advice, not just an order taker who says, this is what you qualify for at this rate. Ugh! We are going to raise the standard of this industry. I can't stand I will train those people in the future. But you are going to know your numbers and you are going to know exactly what you can afford and how that's going to play into your budget, and then stick to it. Stick to your budget. 2, hire professionals. This is where I'm like, stack your bench. Most of the time, lenders are paid based on the loan amount at closing, not out of pocket. Real estate agents typically paid for by the seller as a negotiated term of the contract. Hire top dogs that are going to care. It'll make your life easier. Put that weight on us to make sure that this is a good loan and house for you, and to give you really good advice. And then I love research. You know, you've got AI, you've got Google, all of that. Do your research, but it's not law. Ask questions to the person and the team that you've hired, because things change and move so much, and things are not always applicable to you or should be and aren't being talked about. So this is where the dream team is going to step in and help make sure that that goes smoothly. If you made it this far, you are the real MVP. I know it was long, but I took the time to really cover all of the bases so that you have a really good education starting point. And if this resonated and you think that it might be time for you to buy, of course I would love to help, but I would challenge you to take the next step and talk to a lender. Where are you in your home buying journey? How close are you to actually qualifying? Take that step. It's bode well for the people who have done this and done it in this way with this strategy. So I hope you took something out of this. I hope it was helpful. If you'd like to talk to me personally, there's contact information, I'm sure, all the places here. And so just reach out. I'm here and always happy to help. Thank you.